Greetings.
Indeed. So what is your view on, or I mean, why do you feel heroin should be legal?
Because it's a victimless crime. By possessing or using heroin, there are no victims. Therefore, you should not be able to be prosecuted.
Okay. Is that it?
I mean, I can't elaborate, but do you think heroin should be illegal because heroin is bad?
No. Do you have any, I guess, like evidence? I'm sorry, I'm out of the camera trying to get change out of my back pocket. What?
Evidence of what?
About how heroin's a victimless crime.
Because in the United States, if you get pulled over in your car and you have a bag of heroin in your pocket, you go to jail.
Okay.
And no crime has actually been committed. Other than possessing something that the government tells you cannot have.
Right. But that's why...
Why is it okay to put someone in jail because they're possessing heroin?
Can I say my view on it?
Yeah, please.
All right. So I think heroin should be illegal. Because in my opinion, it is not a victimless crime. I'll explain on that more. And if you have heroin in your pocket and you get pulled over, that's possession of an illegal drug. Depending on how the officer looks at it, that could be intent to do that drug. There could be reasonable suspicion to assume that that person has done that drug before, and also depending on how that person was driving or how that person was pulled over, be under the influence of that drug.
Okay, so driving under the influence, I don't think that should be okay. Like, I think DUI laws are fine. I'm not against those at all. But it's not ethical to prosecute someone because they might do something wrong, because taking a drug can lead to violence or, other crimes. Like, if you do cocaine and then assault somebody, then you should be arrested for assault, but not for doing cocaine.
Right.
So there's so many people in prison for using drugs. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, why are we putting people in prison for using a substance that's none of the government's business?
So what form of heroin should be legal? Just like having it or smoking it with a needle or a pipe?
Having it, or Stephen, that's annoying. Sorry, my brother's here listening to our debate, but having it, you should be able to possess it, use it, not distribute it because that violates tax laws. Yeah, you should be able to. Anyone, if the government wants to regulate an age, say 18 or 21, that's fine. Just like buying alcohol or tobacco.
Okay, so but recreationally.
Recreationally, yes.
Okay.
And not just heroin, all drugs, all
of them. All right. So me being the Google warrior I am.
Okay.
Obviously, I Google everything. Yeah. But I guess something that is the basis of my opinion on this topic is or I guess why heroin is not a victimless crime is if you inject heroin using a needle, if you are a drug addict, you're most likely to need that drug. Heroin is one of the most addictive drugs. The Germans invented it in the 1800s as non-addictive, as a substitute to morphine. And morphine and heroin all come from the opium plant. As you know, morphine is given to hospital patients to relieve pain and whatnot. That was kind of the basis of heroin. Heroin was brought to do the same thing as morphine, but just non-addictive. And then in the United States, you could buy heroin over the counter by pharmacists until 1920. I guess the effects, at least right now that I have like looked on the internet for, is the immediate threats. If someone is a drug addict, they're most likely going to be poor. Will not be able to afford. Drugs are expensive, you know. Not everyone on the street is gonna have cocaine. Cocaine's expensive. You watch, The Wolf on Wall Street. He's got some money because he has the money. He can afford the cocaine.
Yes.
Cocaine's expensive. Drugs are expensive, except marijuana. Everyone has marijuana. Not everyone, but it's very easily accessible. And there's kind of less of a risk. Brings down the price, I guess. But with heroin, if you inject it, if you're a prostitute, selling your body on the street, the likelihood of you having a transmittable disease, goes up. And if you're sharing needles, because I don't think people are going to care about like needle safety and overall safety if they just want the drug. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So if someone has HIV or another easily transmittable disease, and they shoot up and they give to their friend or whatever, now they have HIV. And there are other effects with sharing needles that you have obviously heard of, because every doctor and dentist and whatnot are like, don't share needles.
Well, you can, if you know that you have a disease and you transmit it to someone either on purpose or because of negligence, you can be prosecuted for that. But
if two people are sharing the same drug, heroin, which is very addictive, you're not gonna be like, hey, I got HIV from the other, heroin addict. Why'd you get it from that? I'm a heroin addict. All right, well, they're not gonna rat on themselves. So I guess that's why there's a community problem.
Look, I know that heroin's bad, and I know that it can cause health problems, but why is it okay? Even so, you're saying people use drugs are drug addicts. I just don't think it's humane or it's not civilized to prosecute people because they have a medical problem. And even Barack Obama said, well, I myself am not in favor of legalization because we still have to look at drugs as a public health problem. All right. So he said that we should be looking at drugs as a public health problem. If he wants to do that, then why don't we treat it as a public health problem and not as a criminal matter? So he contradicted himself.
Who did?
Barack Obama.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. I was like, shit. 3 minutes in.
No, he says, I am not in favor of legalization because we should look at drugs as a public health problem. All right? Those statements contradict each other. If you want to look at it as a criminal problem, look at it as a criminal problem. But it's a health problem. It's not a criminal problem. So we should be treating it as a health problem. All right? Now, some countries that have legalized drugs, Portugal is the one I referred to.
Mm-hmm.
They've legalized pretty much every drug.
Yeah.
Usage did not go up. It actually went down.
Yeah.
And the reason is because heroin addicts in America, they're afraid of being prosecuted. They're afraid of being exiled by their families. They're afraid of losing their children. They don't want their lives to be ruined because they have a problem. So what they do, they hide and they don't go seek help. They try, and that's not helping them get over their problem. If it's legal and, we treat these guys as they have a problem, just like people with mental health problems, then we have a better chance of rehabilitating people, which is exactly what happened in Portugal.
Portugal did do that. I was just about to bring it up. and they kind of shifted their focus from jail time to fixing the problem, which is fun. I see your point, but I don't know, to say heroin's kind of like a victimless crime, not like a community problem. Drugs being so expensive, if the entire community is like hooked on drugs, like Maine is I'm not saying everyone in Maine, but there are communities in Maine that are very heroin. It's the heroin capital of the United States. For whatever reason, if they're afraid to be prosecuted or whatnot. But yeah, that brings down the community's wealth, I guess, because if they all want heroin more than dinner one night, that's how it's going to be,
But so if Maine's the heroin capital of the country, is the law that says heroin is illegal helping that at all? Is it stopping people from using heroin?
But is it changing anything either? Is it fixing anything?
No, I'm just saying, like, if a drug addict needs a drug, just like they're going to buy heroin over food, they're going to buy heroin because they need it, and they're not going to avoid buying it because it's illegal.
Hold on, I gotta sneeze.
Bless you.
Okay, never mind.
I fixed it.
I understand. Well, when someone is arrested and they are under the influence, I know with alcohol, I'm not sure about drugs, but with alcohol, they're thrown, not like thrown, but they're placed into a room where they
cops are very aggressive. They do throw people sometimes.
Well, each cop is different, they're placed into a room that they can withdraw safely for, which is fine. And heroin's also linked to coma, depression, lost memory, and intellectual performance.
Yes, heroin is bad. I agree.
Yeah. So I mean, they're not going to take a heroin addict from the streets straight to the jail cell. They'll die, So there's obviously going to be am I wrong?
Well, that doesn't even make sense.
They're not going to take a heroin addict, arrest them, and be like, all right, you're going to jail now.
If they find heroin on them, then yes, they will.
No, if they're like smoking heroin, if they're like under the bridge shooting up, or they're under the influence of heroin, they're not going to be, all right, yeah, jail cell now.
Then what are they going to do?
They're going to put them in a withdrawal place. You can't take a heroin addict that's like hooked on heroin and put them in a jail cell. They'll die.
But then what do they do once they put him in a jail cell?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Yeah, but then once he's not high anymore, then he still gets charged with possession of heroin, and he goes to jail.
That's not withdrawal though. That's the high. A withdrawal is when you don't have something for an extended period of time. Like if you ever smoke tobacco for like a year and then you quit, you're gonna want that. That's gonna be a problem. If you don't get that, you're gonna experience symptoms. You're gonna throw up, migraines. You're gonna be in hell. And there are doctors in jails. They might not be A1, but there are doctors in jails that are probably used to dealing with drug addicts of all kind. So I don't know if you saw it as like heroin addicts go from prison to jail. Like that's it.
It depends on the offense and it depends on the state.
Yes, if someone has drugs or heroin on them and they've never done heroin in their life, then no, they will not withdraw. But that's still a possession of a drug. You can be charged with a lot of other things. Drug trafficking, intent to sell, smoking it.
Okay, well, I'm not questioning the procedure on how we prosecute offenders. I'm just saying they shouldn't be prosecuted at all.
I understand that, but I don't want you to think every heroin addict goes from jail or the street to jail.
No, I'm just saying
that's not how it is.
Because it shouldn't be illegal in the first place. Because it's not the government's job to tell responsible American citizens what they can and can't do in their free time. All right, it doesn't impact anyone else's rights or pursuit of happiness.
I agree with that.
Even if it's dangerous, even if it's bad for you. Okay, cigarettes kill way more people than heroin does. Alcohol kills way more people than heroin does.
Tobacco and alcohol are way more accessible than heroin, a lot cheaper than heroin.
So why is it legal if more people are dying from it? The
Why
reason
is tobacco and alcohol more accessible?
No, I'm just saying those things statistically are more dangerous, yet they are completely fine.
Well, heroin's way more addictive than nicotine, and so
no, it's not. The withdrawal effects might be more severe, but it's nicotine is extremely addictive.
So is heroin.
Yeah, but tobacco is legal and heroin's not.
Yes, but have you ever thought about, if 4 billion people are smoking tobacco and 2,000 are smoking heroin, the effects and the deaths from nicotine are going to be way more than heroin. I mean, honestly, like, there are way more people smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol than there are doing cocaine and heroin combined. I'll bet money on it.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so the effects of alcohol and tobacco are going to be way more amplified than they would be for heroin. And they're also, because heroin and tobacco are legal, their symptoms and effects will be easily monitored than heroin. Because, as you said, with heroin, they're going to hide. They're not going to ask for help, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, because they're afraid that they're going to go to jail or lose their kids or their mom won't love them anymore. All right?
Well, I mean, if they're going to lose their kids because of heroin, that's kind of okay. Why should a heroin addict be able to keep their kids if they're going to choose heroin over dinner one night?
Because it's not a police officer's right to come into someone's house and say, oh, you're a heroin addict, so you can't be fit to be a mother, so we're taking your kids away.
If you could find a case that happens, I mean, I would read it, but I'm pretty sure you have to be charged, and then the judge.
You shouldn't be charged in the place.
But why?
Why don't we stick to why heroin should be illegal or legal?
I understand, but you can't just stick, because if that was the case, it would be like, all right, you would say heroin should be legal. I would say heroin should not be legal. You have to go in depth on why it should be illegal. So, as you said, why should they have the kids taken away?
But
why should they not have the kids taken away?
I've told you why I think heroin should be illegal, because it's not the government's right to prosecute an American citizen for using whatever substance they want. I'm not really interpreting or understanding your thesis on this.
Well, you said that, they're going to be scared to say that they're doing heroin or ask for help because they're going to get their kids taken away.
That's why making it illegal does not help.
I understand that. But that was also a counterpoint. They should have their kids taken away because it makes them a poor mother, because it's highly addictive. Second, it's the government's job, however your beliefs are, to keep the people safe.
No, it's not. It's the government. The government cannot keep people safe. They can only protect a citizen's individual liberties.
Okay.
Their police officer job is to enforce the law, not to keep us safe.
Okay. But laws are in place to keep us safe. There are firefighters, county districts.
We do dangerous things on a daily basis. Driving a car is very dangerous. Swimming pools are very dangerous. Okay?
Yes, that's why there are laws in place to regulate the speed on how fast you can go. And that's why police officers that are there to keep us safe enforce laws, however you want to look at it.
Driving a car is still...
If you go this fast, it's unsafe.
No, driving a car is unsafe, period. It's very dangerous. You could be killed.
And speed is also dangerous.
Kids drown in swimming pools all the time. Should we make swimming pools illegal?
I think that's different. I think you're comparing a heroin to a swimming pool.
I'm saying that just because something is dangerous does not give the government the right to make it illegal. Because there's so many different dangerous things.
Okay. So I guess going off that, do you think the government should have FDA approvals or no?
Should there be an FDA?
Yeah, approval.
I think the FDA is a little corrupt, but yeah, I'm fine with the government telling businesses, companies what they can and can't put in food, saying they can't put dangerous chemicals in food or make food unsafe.
Does that kind of contradict your point?
No, because a business selling unsafe food to a customer is infringing on their personal liberty to safety and to happiness.
Okay. So let's say a Mexican cartel is selling heroin to someone else. That's dangerous. Is that different? A Mexican cartel effectively runs as a business.
I'm not following here. The cartels aren't regulated by the FDA.
No, but they are as if a business like. And the FDA is there to keep us safe, to prevent businesses from putting unwanted meat glue and whatnot.
Okay, well, if heroin were legalized, those cartels wouldn't exist.
False. They would still exist.
No.
They wouldn't do heroin, but they would still exist.
You can go to the store and buy heroin. Why would there be a black market for it?
Okay, heroin's not that readily accessible.
And buy alcohol, and I don't see kids high schoolers selling beer on the streets like they do pot. Okay, there's none of that. There are some moonshiners left, but they're very few and far between, and it's not really. That's kind of silly at this point.
Okay, the differences between pot and alcohol are different.
No, I'm saying making anything illegal creates a black market for it.
Okay. But even if it is legal, there's still going to be ways around that. Nike has sweatshops in China and Bangladesh. You know, they still get around things. They're going to find a cheaper product. So if, you know, whatever Walmart sells heroin for $2.95, but, you know, Marco down the street sells it for 59 cents, Marco's heroin might be shit, but that's another black market.
Because of mass production and capitalism, the heroin in the store will be cheaper anyway.
Okay, heroin isn't that you can't grow heroin in your backyard. Most heroin that comes from other countries is imported from places like Afghanistan. Afghanistan produces the most opium, morphine, heroin, more or less the same thing in the entire world. And we don't like Afghanistan right now, so we're not going to trade. We'll give you 2 bricks for a box of opium. And if opium's, you know, coming from Afghanistan the most, that's, you know.
You remember when alcohol was made illegal in the 1920s? It was called Prohibition.
Yes.
Okay. So what happened was they made alcohol illegal, and did people stop drinking it? Absolutely not. People were making it in their bathtubs. They were making it in their toilets. They were finding ways to make it, and there was a whole syndicate of organized crime because of it that was created just by making something illegal. Okay, there were like bars, clubs, and crime for the only reason that they made something illegal. Okay.
Okay.
Now, when they made it legal again, all that shit went away because there's no organized crime anymore of making and selling alcohol. So by making heroin legal, you effectively take away the black market entirely.
Well,
it's a basic economic principle that regulating something heavily creates black market in anything.
Give me 3 seconds to Google something.
Take as much time.
I don't want to Google something and be wrong.
I'm reading through the comments too. Heroin can kill you way faster with consistent use than alcohol or cigarettes. No, alcohol can kill you in a day, just like heroin can. A lot of times, addicts will choose getting high over feeding their children. It's a sickness, therefore, it makes them unfit to properly care for their children. I agree. If a mother can't feed their kids, then she's not fit. Heroin is illegal because it affects everything around the addict/user. I disagree with that. Smoking heroin affects no one but yourself. Unless it causes you to commit more crimes, and then you should be prosecuted for those crimes when using heroin.
The major legal opium growing countries in the world are India, Turkey, and Australia, and the state of Tasmania. Afghanistan accounts for over 90% of the world's opium. Although the Taliban has banned opium poppy cultivation in 2001, after the roused out of power, the production of opium has steadily risen until they were the world's total largest opium producers. Australia is one of the biggest producers of legal opium and opiates, if not the biggest. Okay, opium can be grown almost anywhere on Earth, provided that the conditions are suitable for growing any sort of plant. I guess with the reaction to that, you hear people that grow yeast. People in like West Virginia make moonshine. Now I don't know how to make heroin, but I'm pretty sure it's easier to make alcohol than it is heroin.
It is.
Yeah. But I understand the point that it doesn't like your free liberty kind of thing. If you do it, it's kind of on you. Shit, what was I gonna say? I don't just the differences of alcohol and opium are still there. Like I know a few people that still made moonshine, and even though it's legal, they still did it.
It's actually legal in North Carolina, where I'm from, to distill moonshine or whiskey or whatever you want up to 5 gallons for personal use. They're saying you can make it for yourself, you just can't sell it, because then no one's paying taxes on it. Government doesn't get a cut of it.
All right.
But at least here, actually making it isn't illegal. In some places it still is.
Yeah. I guess what makes tobacco and alcohol legal is that there's such a large market for it that even with heroin, there's just not a large market for it.
All right, we got a comment. Hard drugs are like heroin. Hard drugs like heroin cause severe addiction. The drug starts to dominate the addict's life to a point where they don't care. They have to keep getting it. They can't function normally. Okay, so then shouldn't heroin addicts, cocaine addicts, they know they have a problem and they wish they could stop, but they're addicted, so they can't. So shouldn't we help them instead of putting them in prison?
I mean, we have AA, but AA doesn't stop alcoholics.
It helps a lot of people. Yeah, it does.
It helps a lot of people, but it doesn't stop people from becoming alcoholics.
Well,
there are
alcoholism is a genetic disease.
Okay, you don't just become an alcoholic because your parents were alcoholic.
Alcoholism is your genetics.
Okay, if you could find a source saying that,
you're on the computer right over here.
I think anyone can become an alcoholic, whether you're genetically inclined. I think it does play a difference.
No, alcoholism is a genetic disease. You get it. If you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic because it's in your genes. All right, while you're Googling that, I think one of Brandon's points was making, and I could be wrong too, is alcohol and cigarettes still kill a lot of people, but yet it's totally legal and fine. If the reason behind heroin being illegal is that it's dangerous and kills people, why is alcohol or cigarettes still legal? The government doesn't care about your safety, and it's not their job to care about your safety. It doesn't mean it should be legal for everyone who wants to try it to ruin their life and get addicted. Okay. Because everyone is required to go to school in the United States, everyone knows that heroin is bad, and people aren't just going to go to the store and try it because they know it's bad. You'd be surprised, LOL. I mean, I guess.
Alcohol consumption is influenced by a combination of environmental and genetic factors. So, yeah, you can be predispositioned for it, but just because, your mom and dad were alcoholics doesn't mean you're going to be an alcoholic. I mean, there's a higher chance for you to become an alcoholic, but it's not like, Johnny's going to
No, there's a higher chance for you to abuse alcohol because you're an alcoholic.
Wait, say it again?
There's a higher chance of you abusing alcohol because you are an alcoholic.
That's not what you said before.
No, I'm correcting what you're saying.
Yeah. There's a higher chance. There's a higher you have a predisposition to become an alcoholic.
Cats? I'm allergic to cats, but I wouldn't have a reaction unless I touch a cat.
If both parents are alcoholics and you have a sip of alcohol, doesn't mean you're an alcoholic now.
No, it means you already are an alcoholic, and the chances of you abusing alcoholism are higher.
Yes, but just because your parents are alcoholics doesn't mean you're an alcoholic.
No, if you're an alcoholic, then you're an alcoholic.
Yeah, but just because your parents are alcoholics doesn't make you an alcoholic.
No, because you would have to look at your genetic makeup to determine that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that
you abuse alcohol and you abuse it and it causes personality changes, then those symptoms can diagnose you as an alcoholic, which you will always see. You always have that, and you always will be. But you just have a higher chance of abusing alcohol compared to someone who's not an alcoholic.
You're not always born alcoholics.
If you're an alcoholic, you were born that way.
No. Gene Irwin, PhD, professor of pharmaceutical science at the CU School of Pharmacy, says alcohol consumption is influenced by a combination of environmental and genetic factors.
Genetic factor, you're an alcoholic.
Environmental factor,
you abuse alcohol. So without the abusing alcohol, you're still an alcoholic.
But, if you have two kids raised from Christians, and their friends aren't Christians, but they all drink, and they become alcoholics, then the likelihood of you becoming an alcoholic because your environment is higher.
No.
But your parents are alcoholics.
The likelihood of you drinking is higher.
Anyone that drinks excessively can become an alcoholic.
No. Anyone who drinks excessively, drinks excessively. Anyone who is an alcoholic who drinks excessively is an alcoholic. Who drinks
So
excessively?
you're saying that we're off topic, but anyway.
We really are. But, I mean, this we can.
So if you're an alcoholic and you take a sip of beer, then you're an alcoholic. But if your parents aren't alcoholics and you aren't an alcoholic and you just drink a lot and it causes you to have a problem, then you just have a drinking problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I was off topic.
But the government should not have the right to say what is good and bad for your life, because who is to say that they say is actually good? It's too subjective. Yeah, I mean, that's really my whole argument. It's not the government's job to tell American citizens what they can and can't do.
Federally sentenced drug offenders in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, with linked U.S. Sentencing Commission, records by primary drug type fiscal year end 2012. Sorry.
Then leave America. No, I don't want to leave America because all my stuff's here. Sorry, go ahead.
Attaboy. Primary drug offenders, according to this BJS.gov, says it was 93,000. Powder cocaine, 24,000, 25%. Crack cocaine, 26,000, 28%. Heroin, 5,800, 6.2%. So, heroin's not even... The only thing less than heroin is other at 3.5%. But marijuana is at 12. Methamphetamine is at 23. So heroin's not even a big prison problem. If it counts for only 5,800 people out of 93,000 people, that's not a big deal.
But I still care about those people because they didn't do anything wrong. All they did was...
You sound like Becca Snow.
Huh?
You sound like Becca Snow.
Who the hell is Becca Snow?
A girl that said the death penalty is wrong because 116 people are going to die innocently. But for the other 98% of people, 74,000 people, she was completely fine with that.
No, I disagree with the death penalty because it's unconstitutional, not because of a greater good. Then stop complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm debating. That's what this app is for. Please, come on.
Anyway, so heroin in the prisons isn't even a significant problem. It's not as big as a problem as meth or cocaine or powder cocaine.
Well, the heroin should be legal is really just a grabber to bring you in, but I'm speaking for all.
I understand. That's why I wanted to argue this one, not all drugs.
All drugs should be legal. All of them.
Right, but I wouldn't have to debate that because I specifically said heroin. See what I did there? If you start talking about meth or crack, I'm like, that's off topic because this says heroin. Different debate.
It's like the same thing. It's a substance that's illegal.
Kind of, sort of, but the effects are different. But anyway, that's off topic.
It doesn't matter what the effects are.
Okay.
Because
so that's kind of the same thing with alcohol then, because it doesn't matter what the effects are.
Because those effects is your right to choose what you put in your body.
Okay. So how do you feel about alcohol?
I think it's fine. I drink it sometimes.
All right. I understand. Why do you drink it?
To get drunk.
Why do you not use heroin?
Because it's bad for you.
It's also readily accessible. You can go to any grocery store and be like, all right, I'll take a pack of Budweiser. Heroin, you're going to be like, it's going to call 1,800 plugs. Got heroin? Nah, fam. Like, fuck. One person's going to have heroin. It's going to be like $24 or whatever. Like a little, I don't know what heroin's measured in, but about that big. However, the tiniest little piece of heroin, $24.
But no,
I
told you I don't use heroin because I don't want to use heroin because it's bad for you, not because it's not readily accessible.
But even if you wanted to, who would you call?
I don't know because I don't hang out
with heroin
people.
Because heroin's hard to get. Alcohol is like, all right, everyone has alcohol at a party. Who has heroin? The real people.
But
the real people.
But it's not hard to
heroin.
Does it? It's not hard to get to someone who does it, though.
Wait, say it again.
Heroin's not hard to get for someone who does heroin.
Yes, because they're addicted. They're gonna have that plug. But for someone that's trying to get into it, you're gonna have to have a heroin friend that's gonna be poor. You're probably not gonna associate with anyway. And the likelihood of you having a heroin friend also and interested in heroin, you're also probably gonna be poor. So you're undesirable anyway. So, jail in a way would kind of be beneficial. Because in jail you have a roof over your head and 3 meals a day.
But if I want to use heroin responsibly, why should it be anyone?
If you can use heroin responsibly, I give you more power. If you find one news article saying that, Johnny Boy uses heroin responsibly, let me know. I'll give you all the money in my bank account. There is no way to use heroin responsibly. You can drink alcohol responsibly. You can smoke cigarettes responsibly. There is no way to smoke or inject heroin responsibly.
But so what? If I want to go use heroin, why should I be prosecuted for it? Because
it's dangerous. You obviously can't use it responsibly.
But why does the government have to tell me that I can't do something because it's dangerous? Why do they have to control people and to say you can't do this because we said it's dangerous?
So, what's your view on the government?
I mean, government is good. We need government. But
why do we need government?
To protect our individual liberties.
Okay. So what would you define as an individual liberty?
The Constitution. Those are individual liberties. Your right to live the life that you want to live without molestation.
Okay. So you don't think laws are placed or put in place to protect us?
Laws are put in place to give the illusion of protecting us, but they're really to control us and to generate revenue.
But isn't revenue, which is printed on like fake money, isn't that an illusion too? So if you just believe in the illusion, isn't it the same thing?
For example, seatbelt laws. You have to wear a seatbelt in this country or else you get a ticket because the government's looking out for your safety. If the government was really looking after your safety, wouldn't they make it a little bit harder to get a driver's license in this country? I mean, you look at Europe, they have to go through extensive defensive driving courses to get their license.
If you look at Europe's culture,
get a driver's license because the cost of insurance, taxes, tolls, tickets. It's not the seatbelt laws are not for your safety. They're so someone can write you a ticket.
Whoever came up with the seatbelt wasn't like, this is going to give the cops a lot of money. No, they went, all right, maybe, Johnny, I don't know, not Johnny, Amelia won't flav her windshield when she crashes a car. Maybe, she won't fly anywhere. Maybe she'll stay firmly in place and be protected by the government regulated airbags. That's also put in place to prevent against car crashes, along with seatbelts. When seatbelts came about, they dropped the car-related deaths by a ton. And in the 50s, when there weren't, seatbelts everywhere, and babies didn't wear seatbelts, the cop wasn't like, all right, I'm gonna give him a ticket. But when there was a car crash, that baby was flying.
Sorry, 1 second.
Brandon Man 10, is that me or him? That's you. Okay, thank you very much.
No.
It's a debating app. I don't know why. Anyway, you should probably delete the app if you're, going to judge or attack people on physical characteristics, but that's fine. Joker was a joke. Sports debate, let's go. On MMA. Good debates. All right. Good positions.
Yeah, dude.
I'm just saying too.
I mean, I don't know. Just like the government should not be able to tell you what you can and can't do.
Even if it's like there to protect you.
Yes, unless it's infringing upon the rights of others, then they should not be able to tell you what to do.
So is seatbelts infringing on the right of others?
No, because if I don't choose to wear my seatbelt, that doesn't affect anybody. I wear my seatbelt because it's stupid not to, but I shouldn't be ticketed for not wearing my seatbelt. Because how is not wearing your seatbelt a crime?
It prevents death, because that's a law. That's why the law is there. Prohibition came about because alcohol that touches these lips will not touch our lips. Something similar to that. It was to prevent, domestic violence and domestic abuse towards those women, because alcohol was making their men,
but again,
alcoholics.
Alcohol should not be illegal because we already tried that. We already tried making alcohol legal, and it made things worse. Things like drugs are not going anywhere. They are here to stay for the rest of eternity, as long as humans are on this planet. So by making them illegal, you're making the problem worse. Okay? The cartels benefit. Why? Because they make tons of money doing it, and they have their fun little crimes, and they're all happy. Okay? It hurts the moms, the dads, the families that are affected by addiction and can't get help because they get sent to jail for it.
And communities.
So, Johnny who gets out of college.
And communities.
So Johnny who gets out of college.
And communities, you forgot that word.
Fine, okay? So Johnny who gets out of college has a heroin problem, now goes to jail for drug use. His whole life is ruined.
Okay.
Get that shit back.
Wasn't that, his personal liberty to choose to smoke heroin or inject heroin or whatever?
Frozen here.
Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to do it. So even if it was legal, wouldn't he still do it?
Maybe try exiting and coming back.
Hello?